Hello and welcome to my next painting. As usual, I'm doing an iPad Procreate painting using mostly the selection tool and using the color fill down the bottom. You can see there, make sure you have that on. I don't really use brushes very often, so most of the time this will be the selections. And just to remind you, the video is mostly unedited and running about 2 speed. So this painting took me about 30 minutes as usual. I didn't have any reference and I was just making up as I went along. So I wanted to do a simple painting here, so simple mountain, simple path, and try and keep it nice and neat. My latest paintings, again, a little bit too complicated, and you can't really have a painting that's too simple. It always generally works. If it's simple, the more complicated it gets, the kind of more mistakes you can make. So my usual process here is I have varying degrees of color on the grass. I make them sloped inwards so it can have a bit of form and it's not all flat. I put the clouds in quick this time. I usually do them at the end, but I thought I wanted clouds covering most of the sky, so I thought I'd better get them in early. And as usual, I change the colors throughout, so don't worry too much about them. They will change a little, although I think they remain roughly the same throughout this time. For the path, one trick to do is into the distance make it go bright, like it's catching the sun, and towards you make it go more saturated, so you can see up the front it's a little bit more red. So as things go into the distance, they lose their saturation, and as they come forward, they gain it. So that's a nice trick to make it kind of look like it's a gradient without really doing any. So we're back onto the grass, putting in some highlights. One thing you want to be careful of when you use green and grass colors is make sure the highlights aren't too green. I've made that mistake many times. You want to stay away from the luminous green colors and try and make the highlights yellow-ish. They might be a bit too yellow actually. I'm not sure if I change those, but in this style it doesn't really matter the colors so much because it is meant to be a bit more colorful vector type. If you wanted a more realistic look, you would pick less saturated colors in general. But I like the colored look. I like making things overly colorful just because I like the paintings to look more fun. I do paint realistic now and again, but I don't find it as much fun trying to copy what we see in real life. Although you do learn a lot when you try and copy realistic. Until you can paint realistic, it's quite hard to paint simplified, which is strange. You'd think it'd be the other way around, but I have painted a lot of realistic paintings in the past. To be able to do this, I think it helps. So if you're practicing, don't worry about doing, if you struggle with this, try some realistic ones, because this is a simplification of the realistic paintings. So I'm doing some of the trees. My usual style is I go vertical first, find out where I'm going to put them, and then try and do some shapes to represent roughly trees. I don't really try to make them tree-like, but just some nice shapes. And I always try and do more than one by themselves. If you do one tree by themselves, they look a bit strange. It looks like it's a little bit too contrived. So I always put two or three, next to each other, maybe more. But yeah, be careful when you just have one tree by itself. My battery ran out on my pencil, so I had to plug it in. Luckily, the Apple Pencil Pro, I don't know about the other one. I think they charge really fast. So I didn't really even edit this. I only left it a couple of minutes, and then I had, I think it was like 15%. So it was enough to finish the painting. Remember to plug it in next time. So put in some highlights on the rocks. I always like doing that bit, as it looks simple, but it's actually not so simple as it looks. You have to make sure you get enough of the shadow part left in, and you have to make sure the shapes are not all the same direction and size. So even though it looks like it's kind of random, me doing it really quickly, it's not random. I am making sure that the shapes are different. And then I'm working on some details now, so grass is always good to put in the front. We want to make the grass vertical in the front, because as we come forward we want more detail. Make sure you don't put the detail too far into the painting, like the midground and background, because our eyes don't really see that far, so it should kind of blend in with the background at that point. So I decided to put some flowers in this one. I generally do, because I like the colors. They contrast with the background. It's always hard picking the right colors for the flowers, so I generally just pick anything that's really colorful and then worry about if it matches later. So I'm using my clip and mask technique to make an interesting border. I not always do this, mostly do this, because I don't like the flat border look. I kind of like making it look like a sticker, because it's a vector type look. It works. I probably wouldn't do this if it was like a realistic or more painterly looking painting. I would probably just leave the borders and maybe do like a vignette or something. But I decided to leave this background white for a change. I usually make it black because then the colors stand out more. So that's the reason I usually go black, is because it makes the colors pop. But because these colors are so bright, I thought let's leave it white and keep everything bright. I think you'll see me try black in a second, but I put it back. One thing I like to do is put little effects everywhere, so I put like little fallen leaves. They don't actually fall from anywhere, so it doesn't really make any sense. But with this style, I don't think it needs to make any sense. It just needs to be playful and look interesting, and I just put anything that works. Really, I just try it out and see what happens, and if I like the look, if I like the look of it, then I'll keep it. But I'm generally using the same techniques in all of them. I'm just changing the colors and the layout and the composition. So there's still a lot to change, but I do roughly the same and tweak it, where I find I get much more success doing it that way. Where if I go completely away from what I do, then things can get really difficult. So I think over time, if you try things little by little, over many paintings, you can change your style and significantly, even, and you have much more success. If you try and change it too quickly, too often, it can be frustrating, and you won't get very good results sometimes, and then it might make you give up. So little changes here and there can make a big difference. There we go. So I tried the black. I'm not sure. You could probably just have two versions of this painting, really. One with the black, one with the white background. So there's nothing stopping you having two. These are not for any particular reason, so I don't really put them anywhere. So it doesn't really matter. Just whatever personal preference. I just like to paint them, and depends on my mood, what I want. So here's me putting my fake light, which I usually do. So I'll paint some black to make it look like a shadow, and then drop the opacity so the colors are correct. So you notice I used a black shadow, but by the time you drop the opacity, it'll take the color from whatever is underneath, which is a nice simple trick. And for this one, I decided to try and put in a little fence. I don't usually put man-made stuff in my paintings. I think I might try a bit more. But like I said earlier, I want to tweak what I do pretty much every painting, at least a tiny bit, just to see if it works. It doesn't always work, of course, but I think this looks quite good because it kind of joins in with the border. So that's another good reason to leave it white. So I think having man-made stuff in the painting kind of helps. It makes it a bit more real, because it's quite rare that we go anywhere that doesn't have man-made things anymore. So we always expect to see kind of something, fences or buildings or signposts or whatever. So I think I'll do more of this. You know, you could have put a little farm in the background, would have been cool. This could even be a farm track, you know, with tire tracks and stuff. That might be quite cool. Maybe I'll do that next time. Put a farm in the background so you're walking into the farm or something like that. I think that'd be cool. It'd be nice to do some buildings as well. I've drawn perspective a lot, so that shouldn't be a problem, but it can be. And this style is more forgiving with perspective though, so it's not quite as difficult. So I'm coming to the end now, and I'm just fiddling around. This is when I know to stop, really, when I've kind of ran out of ideas what to do. So if you like it, give me a like and subscribe. Thanks.